You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. Hello and welcome to Radio Nonsense, the Comedy Club for Kids podcast suitable for all ages from to achoo! I'm Dylan, and yep, I've got a cold this week and it's not very nice. I think I'm about 90% snod right now and it's all in my brain. I keep sneezing and it's never when I'm ready to sneeze and have a tissue ready to catch all the snod. No, it's always when I'm holding a drink and then I sneeze and it flies everywhere, or when I'm talking to my wife and then it sneezes all in her face, or when I'm on my computer and then the screen looks like it's been attacked by aliens. Why does everybody love slime so much when it's just snot in a tub, isn't it? That's all it is. It's just snot in a tub and you're paying for snot in a tub. There's all these YouTube videos about how to make your own slime. Well, I'll tell you, get a cold, sneeze in a tub. That'll do it. But what about glitter slime? Well, put glitter up your nose and then sneeze in a tub. What about crunchy slime? Sneeze in a tub, but just after you've woken up when all the snot is really crunchy. It's very easy, really. I might start a slime business this week. I've caught a cold off my daughter who caught it at her nursery, because if you have a little brother or sister, you will know that they only go to nursery to get germs. I'm sure you've been told that it's so your parping grumble trunks, sorry, grown-ups, can go to work, and so that your little pest brother or sisters can get ready for school by drawing on walls or eating spiders or whatever it is they do. But actually, it's so they can collect all of the germs at once. I'm sure it is. I think that's the reason. My daughter always catches something at nursery every single time she goes. It's like how bees collect pollen on their knees. Toddlers just gather germs on their mucky hands and snot-covered faces. Once, my daughter caught a rash called hand, foot and mouth. I don't know if you've had that or heard of it. I didn't know about it, and I think if it gets really bad, it becomes head, shoulders, knees and toes. Anyway, hopefully this cold will be gone by next week, but on the plus side, I'm so blocked up in my nose, I can't smell any of the stinky hippos that you keep sending in, despite me asking that you please don't, because I don't want any more. So, you can send in stinky hippos this week, because I can't smell them, but then as soon as my cold goes, you'll have to take them all back again. Thank you. Thanks again for all your emails and lovely reviews, especially from question mark, laughing smiley face, sideways, laughing smiley face, laugh smile. This is a very interesting name. You have got very original parents. Well done. And from Let's Gooey, which I think I might be Let's Gooey this week, or at least my nose is. But thank you to both of you for the nice reviews. Don't forget, if you would like to give this show a 5-star review, which will help other listeners find it and tune in, then please do that at Apple Podcasts or wherever you hear this noise from. And if you've got questions, jokes or anything else you want to send in, then do ask those parping grumble trunks, sorry, grown-ups, to help you send them in to us at podcast@comedyclub4kids.co.uk. And as I've mentioned before, we are doing our Comedy Club for Kids live shows again, starting in just a few weeks. So hopefully I'll be better then. So if you'd like to come along and laugh until you wee yourself, or hopefully not, then please check our website, comedyclub4kids.co.uk, and see when we're near you. It's very exciting. Right, and now for this week's important test bit. Achoo! I am joined on this week's show by Joz Norris, aka Joz Norris, the magical florist. Joz, the Nobel Prize winner for that time you complimented someone's knees really, really nicely, and it was just lovely. And 4-time whisk-flinging champion. Hello, Joz. It's lovely to have you here.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's 5-time whisk flinging champion.
Is it?
Actually.
Oh goodness, is that very recent? Was there a recent one?
Well, no, we've had trouble with this before, where there was a 5th time when I entered, and I think there was an issue with recording the win properly. I think some data got lost. So I think on the official records, I've only won 4 times, but it was 2018, I did actually fling the whisk the furthest, but then there were some issues with figuring out exactly where it landed.
Oh, that's
I think it might have rolled, and then there was some people saying, is it where it lands or is it where it ends up? There was a debate about that. As far as I'm concerned, I got my 5th win.
Sure. Well, it's important that you've got to have the confidence that it was a win. But I mean, I suppose that is tricky with a whisk. Whisks do roll. In fact, they whisk.
Yeah. Well, it was one
problems.
of those big balloon-shaped ones. So it's. Well, actually,
Sure.
I say that. How many different types of whisk are there? There's a balloon whisk.
Yeah, there's a little
So you'd
tiny. We've got a
assume that
tiny whisk. Like if you were gonna, I mean, it's mainly I think from my daughter's like fake cooking thing, but it looks like it's just for making very small things.
Right, it's like a thumb, the size of a thumb, like a
Yes.
little thumb whisk. Yes, I've seen those. They're banned at the whisk flinging championships, obviously, because they're smaller, they go further, they have less resistance. So that's
and harder
that's
to
frowned
find
upon.
at the end as well.
Exactly, yeah. You really cause a lot of trouble for the judges going through the long grass. But thanks so much for having me.
No, it's lovely to have you. And have you been well? Apart from sort of whisk flinging controversies aside, have you been well?
I've been all right. I've been okay. This week has been. I've been trying to work out different ways of dressing up as an alien this week out of things that I have lying around the house. And this is for a calendar shoot. I'm trying to work out how to do that. So that's been
That makes sense.
Big task.
Can I ask what sort of alien you're going? Because when you say dress up as an alien, it's tricky because there are so many different types of alien that you could dress up as, and I wondered if you're going for a specific one or type.
What we've decided to do, this is me and my girlfriend who are trying to work out how to create this look, this alien look, and we've decided that the easiest thing, rather than going for a pre-existing type of alien, is to look at what we have available and then sort of invent our own, and to say which of these look like we could convincingly say this is a type of alien. So there's a sort of a top which has scales on it, kind of glittery scales, and we're trying to use that. And there's a pair of silver trousers that we've been using. And we're thinking if we can combine those and then do something with makeup, then you've got the beginnings of some sort of fish-based
That's
thing.
very good.
Which I reckon there must be a fish-based alien out there.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? You'd think with all the kind of possible aliens, there's got to be some planets that are all water.
That are watery, yeah. Well, the ones we've got are quite hot, I think, in this solar system. They all look. My understanding of them is that they're all quite hot, or they're just gas, which is useless to everybody. You can't land a single alien on those. But elsewhere, I'm thinking of Star Wars. Basically, I think there's a water planet on Star Wars.
There's got to be a water planet, and I think you're right in that. Let's say if there were fish-based aliens on Mars, they'd have a really awful.
Oh, they'd have a
awful
terrible time.
Yeah.
Dreadful time.
They'd just be
Although,
coughing
didn't they
all the
find
time,
some
yeah.
water? Maybe they found a little bit of water. But I
Do you
wouldn't
think
have
that
thought
all the fish aliens are gathered around one tiny bit
Millions
of water
them in one pond?
Your go. Okay, your go.
Yeah,
okay, your go.
okay.
Yeah.
It's my day to have a drink. They were all very thirsty, very stressed.
That'd be awful.
Yeah.
Well,
not
also,
great.
I mean, I feel like I should just stick up for gas planets. There might be gas-based aliens. Like we haven't.
No.
You don't think
I'm
there's
not a fan
aliens that
of
are just
gas,
a cloud of gas that are just floating around? And
I actually have a real problem with the gas planets. So it's everything from I get really annoyed by the gas planets because I don't think they're planets, and I know that there's a lot of scientific thought that suggests otherwise. I think in general people are agreed that they are planets, but I feel like a planet should be a thing. You know, I think it should be possible to land a spaceship on a planet and explore. And if it's made of gas, it's a cloud, basically. Jupiter's a big cloud.
well, look, hang on now. Listen, I don't want to take this down to base level for our listeners because obviously we've got a very intelligent listenership. But there are times when you might do a fart and you go, "That is there. That is definitely a thing,
That's
and it's there,
true.
and
Yeah,
it
they
smells
exist,
solid, and
they
it hangs
happen.
around and lingers, and you could potentially land something on it."
You're right, and I'm not denying that gas planets exist, but I think there has to be a difference at some point. In the same way that if you do a fart and it turns into something more, if it accidentally turns into a poo, then you can tell there's a difference. It's turned into a thing.
That's true.
So I'm not saying, I'm happy for there to be a word like fart that we use to describe the gas planets, Jupiter and all those ones. But I think saying that they're the same as the poo of Earth or Mars, I think we've got to say that's a different thing. It's a different thing.
So hang on. So are these gas planets then? Would you say are they like space clouds? Like, is that how you'd sort of see them? Because
Yeah, they must be. They must be big sort of farty, wafty clouds, and that's great. I'm happy for that to exist. But
yeah,
I think in my head, when you go to space, you want it all to be about exploring, meeting new aliens, new cool people. I don't think you're going to do that in the middle of a big farty cloud. I think all you're going to do is waft around in the middle of it. Possibly there'll be an awful smell, and then that's it. You float through it and you're gone. I don't think that's the same as visiting another planet. I just think we need to come up with a new name for it.
It is interesting. Like I've never, because like they've just landed a robot. You know, just a few months ago they landed a robot on Mars. They've never sort of flown anything straight through the gas clouds, have they? They've never sort of
which feels
let's
like
just go
that would be
straight
quite
through
fun. See what's in the middle. There must be something quite interesting in the middle. Presumably somebody that's been creating all that gas.
Yeah,
somebody
there may well
terrible...
be somebody just in the middle going, "Oh, I've eaten far too many
feel awful.
Green things." And Jerusalem artichokes are known as fartichokes. It's probably a lot of them.
It's somebody who probably an alien version of them. I'm sure they don't have exactly the same artichokes as us, but there'll be something that's caused it.
Yeah, that's a
I
really
think that should be the next
point.
mission. I think Elon Musk and all those people who are sending spaceships out should concentrate on that next.
Well, I think specifically Elon Musk, because his surname Musk sounds like a sort of scent or a smell.
Yeah.
And so he's the sort of person that should investigate big smells. Yeah.
It could be called the Musk Hunter.
Yeah.
He goes and tries to find the best musks in the solar system and work out who's behind them. I'll fund it. I'll send them. I think I'd send him £10 towards that.
That's got to be enough, isn't it? Because you haven't got to build anything that lands. You could probably just send a paper aeroplane through it, really.
Yeah. And he's already got planes, so he can just send one of his regular planes, use my £10 donation to maybe beef it up a bit so that it can get into space, and then send it on its way, find out what's going on.
I'd have thought, because he's got quite like cool cars, that go quite fast. Probably with your £10, just build a big ramp and just do a big jump.
Yes, that would do it, and then swoop it off up into space, land in one of the gas clouds.
That's got to be enough, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know how you get it back, but that's the...
I'm happy to just let it go. I think if we... As long as there's a camera strapped to it and it goes into the middle and we get some video of what's going on in there, then I'm okay if the car never comes back. I think that's a sacrifice I'm happy to make to find out what's going on out there.
That's fair. There's also a potential chance, if there is a farty alien in the middle, they could use enough force in the farts to send it back.
That's true. Yeah. They might have lots of technology of their own to help us out. I just think we know what's going on Mars now. Nothing. There's nothing there. We've sent a lot of stuff, so it's time to up our game and try something a bit different.
I'm all for this. I think this sounds very exciting, and I think you're right. In that there's lots and lots of pictures of Mars, and every one I go, oh, that looks lovely, and then I see the next one, I go, it looks lovely, but exactly the same.
Yeah,
and
and
there's another dry mountain and another dry sort of pit. This is it's sort of, it doesn't look. There's got to be a while, like that poor robot that's there. After a while, that's just
it must be so bored.
Quite like something to do.
Yeah.
Other than
I wonder if they send anything up there with it. Does it get to take a book or a crossword puzzle or anything like that? Because it's mostly just sitting and thinking, isn't it? Which is nice for maybe a day, but after a day, I'd want something to do.
Yeah, they had like a little helicopter they did the other day, didn't they? Like it was like a little remote-controlled helicopter.
Oh, that's quite
But
fun.
I don't know if the robot got to control it. I think they did it from Earth, which is a bit unfair to say to the robot, here's a fun toy, but you can't have a go.
You don't get to control it. It's like when someone else plays a computer game and you just have to watch. It's no good.
Rubbish. Never as fun.
I want to have a go.
Yeah, it's rubbish. Now, listen, I was going to ask before we got onto this very exciting subject of gas planets.
Oh, yes.
When you're when you're being aliens, is there a point where you can be an alien that's disguised as a human, and therefore you sort of dress like yourself, but just slightly off, like a little bit, like you don't know how?
That's a nice idea, actually. It would be quite subtle. You'd have to. I don't know whether that would be something we'd put into the costume, or whether I'd just have to act sort of slightly out of this world. But I also worry it might not be obvious enough, because the idea is we're going to try and make a calendar in which I play various different aliens, and then we're going to sell it for charity for next year, because we've been making calendars. So I worry if we said this is the Joz Norris alien calendar, where he's going to play lots of different aliens, and one of them I'm playing an alien that's disguised as a human. I think it would be quite quite fun and quite a nice acting challenge. But I wonder whether the charity would look at it and go, hang on, this looks like you playing a slightly weird human. And I'd go, yes, it's me as an alien trying to be a human. And they might go, we needed it to be bigger than that. That's not good enough, they might say.
Wow. And that's why if aliens were disguised as humans, they'd get away with it.
Yeah, they probably would.
Because no one would really be that bothered. They'd just say, oh, you're just acting a bit strange.
Who do you reckon is most likely to be one? Can you think of anyone where you look at them and go, that's definitely somebody having a go?
That's a very good question. There's quite a lot of especially sort of celebrities and people that I think...
some of them are weird.
Yeah, quite weird. I mean, I've always, and some of the listeners probably won't know who this is, but Björk, or Bjork, or Björk, or Björk, it depends on how you say it, but she's so magical and fairy-like and quite strange that I've always thought she could just be an alien.
Yeah. Either that or she's the last possible person who would be an alien. Because if she is an alien trying to disguise herself, then she's doing it very badly because she's the first person you'd think of. So she's either just making no effort and just going, I'm being myself, or it's a double bluff and she's actually the most human person.
Yes, that's actually very true, isn't it? It might be someone who's just a little bit weird, isn't it? Who's sort of quite, is trying so hard to be very straight-laced. And someone like Prince Charles... who's being very sensible, very straightforward,
serious,
yes, but actually could be sort of several aliens standing on top of each other wearing a hat.
Yeah, tiny ones like the ones in Toy Story in a big coat.
That's it. It could
shambling
well be,
along.
How about you? Have you got a specific person who's potentially an alien?
Well, I was wondering about the president for the same reason, old Joe Biden.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
he's so sort of slow and sensible and serious. Everything he talks very slowly, but he's always got those sunglasses on. So he's trying to disguise something, and he's really trying to pass himself off as a sensible man. And also, the last president was so mad that by comparison, he seems very normal. But I reckon that could mean maybe he's got an alien secret.
There is something about, now I've got to be careful here because it's not very nice talking about how someone looks, and I don't want to be mean, but there's always something I think about Joe Biden's head and the way he wears his suits that I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the day he just like released a valve on his neck and his head deflated, and then they sort of took it off, and underneath again was three aliens standing on top of each other.
A little tentacled creature.
Yeah,
that goes, wow,
because
I did
it always
really well
looks like
today.
his head could be just inflated in the morning and there's Joe's head, and then deflate it. And
maybe it's less. Maybe he's one of those ones you remember in Men in Black. There's a whole robot human with a tiny alien inside driving it. Maybe it's one of those situations.
Yeah,
he's an enormous costume. Because actually, I can't remember if I've ever seen him next to another human. Maybe he's. Oh no, I have. He's normal sized.
Well, you say that, but then what if
they're tiny?
What if the other people you've seen around him are also aliens and are also giant or tiny, and they've got this, I mean, and also I would say, I should say, because I think he seems all right. Fair play.
Yeah, he seems like a nice man.
If it requires aliens coming down here and doing a reasonable job, then I'm
grateful to them for the help. Nice of them to step in, actually.
Yeah,
because we've got this far without ever finding out if aliens exist. So maybe they've reached the point of going, let's just go and help these guys a bit. They need a bit of assistance. Let's go and sort out the climate, and then we'll leave them to it.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Thanks
very
much,
guys. Really lovely. Wow, there's so much you've got to think about with this calendar. It's
it's a bit of an admin nightmare trying to sort through all this stuff.
It's so. Well, also you've only got 12 months in a calendar, and I would wager that it's probably going to be more than 12 types of aliens.
Yeah. So trying to choose the 12 best is a tricky process, really. We're not selling it until the end of the year, but we've started this early because we've realised what a big task we've set ourselves. We've got to go through the entire universe and choose 12 things that we want to take a picture of. So that's quite a lot to work through, but we'll get there. We'll sort it out.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah, I Star Wars is a good place to go from as well. I always think some of the best aliens are in there. Like I really like the Jabba the Hutt and the sort of big squelchy slug aliens.
Yeah, I really like it. I actually find him weirdly fun. I know he's supposed to be horrible. We're not supposed to like him, and I think his behaviour is not good. But I think that big booming laugh and the way he's always hosting big parties, and he's a very big personality. As soon as he comes in, it's very sort of like, oh, Jabba's here. And I think if he weren't so, determined to be an evil crime lord, I think actually he could be quite a fun pal.
He's probably got a lovely aunt. He's probably got
Yeah.
like an aunt who's like,
Yeah.
brilliant. Sort of Gladys the Hutt is here.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's all
And
lovely.
she's got the same
and
sort of
fun.
larger than life personality, but she's just nicer.
Yeah,
I guess
that's
I'd
it.
try and hang out with her, Gladys the Hutt.
That's it.
So she'll
Yeah.
probably be in the calendar now. I'll have to build
Oh,
myself
good.
an enormous slug body, but I'll give it a go.
I think
got a
I
few
believe in
months.
you, Joz. I think you can do it. I think you
Yeah,
can do
thanks.
that. Amazing. Well, I was going to ask you because so a lot of our listeners and I was a few months ago saying that they're all stuck at home, but they're not stuck at home anymore. They're going to school and they can go outside.
Yep.
They're still having to spend more time at home than normal because there's nothing else to do in the world.
Yeah.
But I wondered if you had a tip for either being stuck at home or really just, I don't know, something to do that's interesting.
Okay, so my big tip now, because obviously we've had over a year now of everything being a little bit boring, and we've all got a bit sort of used to what's around us. It feels like we've done everything it's possible to do. So my new big tip for kind of reinventing things and finding a little bit of excitement in your day is look underneath stuff. Find out what's going on underneath stuff. Because you look at the world and you think, I've done everything. I've climbed that tree. I've been in that park. I've been in that shop. So now we've got to look at what's underneath all the stuff we used to. So if you see a traffic cone, what's under that? What is underneath that? And if you're in the shops and you see the same old chocolate bar that you always buy, what's underneath it? I think it's time we just start digging down to the world beneath the world we're used to and find out what's going on.
That's really exciting. I'd never thought of that because obviously, right, I think, and again, I don't want to sort of say that there's anything wrong with this, but like people have often thought about what's under a stone. Oh, it's a little bug, right? Never thought about what's under a chocolate bar. Oh, it's another chocolate bar that hasn't been around for 20 years.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, sometimes this is going to produce more interesting results than others. Like a lot of the time, you are going to lift up a Twix and find out that there's more Twixes underneath, but with different sell-by dates on them. But other times, you don't know. Like you say with bugs, you lift up a log and you might find a whole load of woodlice under there, or you might lift up I'm trying to think of other things you can lift up.
You can lift up
Actually,
a
the more I
manhole
think about
cover,
it, I wonder whether it's
and there's
limited.
a whole world underneath that's
world
made
under
of
the
poo
manhole
and wee
cover.
and rats. Yeah,
Don't go into it. I would advise
No,
against
don't
going
go
into
into
it.
it.
But definitely worth lifting the manhole cover and then having a look. Maybe
Yeah.
there'll be somebody down there building some cables or something.
Wow.
There's always something else.
Now I don't know. I don't know what sort of where you live, just but I live in an upstairs flat. So if I was to look under our floor, I'd probably
find a
really
whole-
terrify our downstairs neighbour. Yeah.
Yeah, but what an exciting world to peek into. You'd find somebody else's flat. You'd see what they were making for breakfast, what they were doing with their day. You'd go from thinking, oh, I've done everything it's possible to do in this flat, to suddenly going, now I get to play with everything in this other person's flat underneath. And again, they might not be too happy with it. But,
Yeah.
but it's just a way, if they're doing the same to whoever's beneath them, then they'll be distracted by that. They'll be busy kind of playing in the flat beneath them. And eventually we'll just all get to the centre of the earth. And then we can all just call it a day, I guess, and then go back to our homes.
Or swap.
Yeah.
We could all just swap, couldn't we? And then we could live in Australia, and they could live it. We could all just swap until we do it again, until we get bored enough to do it again and swap back.
Yeah, that would be quite nice.
Yeah.
Do you reckon the world would be okay if we dug that many tunnels all the way through it, or do you reckon it would fall apart like a big egg?
Oh, that's a terrifying thought, isn't it? That we just
Yeah.
sort of... Well, I don't... Do you know... Okay, worms are doing that all the time, aren't they? Like, worms
That's
are constantly
true.
making little holes. So I
Yeah.
suppose it'd just be that, but a bit bigger.
Yeah, on a bigger scale.
Yeah, and as long as we put stuff back, like you'd have to put things back, so maybe once you've dug all the way to the bottom and you've kind of high-fived the person in Australia and then they've gone, then we just put it all back.
Yeah,
then
you'd need
it
to
might
make a
be
big
okay, yeah.
mound of earth at the top and then make sure that all that earth gets shoveled back in.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be about
Otherwise, you're
putting...
going to cause some damage.
Yeah, that would be quite worrying. I think, you've got to be careful with this. But it's always about a level of responsibility, like we were talking about with Jabba the Hutt. It's just, it's fine to do things, but then just put it all back. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just do no harm, and then you're
Yeah.
all right. So, that's what I've started doing now, is just trying to work out what's going on underneath. underneath all the regular stuff.
It's very good. Is that why it looks like I'm talking to you in a big pit?
Yeah, that's why I've dug. I've dug about 2 miles down now, and I'm struggling to work out how to get back out. It turns out if you dig this far into the earth, in the hope that eventually you'll find a ladder that will let you climb back out, there aren't any. There's none down here. So it was lucky that I brought my microphone with me when I first went down.
Very lucky.
Because it
Lovely
means obviously
acoustics
we've
in
still
this
been
bit.
able to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, really nice in terms of the sound quality, and I think I will record all my podcast things from here from now on.
Very good
But
plan.
I am, it's tricky to work out how I'm going to get back to my friends and things like that, because obviously I'm quite far beneath the earth now.
We've just got to keep going till you get out the other side, and then you can
climb
sort of
out
swim
and then
or walk
make my
or
way
whatever.
back round. Yeah, I think I'd probably swim. I think, I love a swim.
Yeah,
And that's going to be a nice long one, so it's going to be
And
really
if you're
good
dressed as a fish
exercise.
alien, you'll probably get
then
on fine. Yeah.
I'll have I'll be streamlined. I was going to say
That's it.
aerodynamic, but I guess it's water dynamic. I don't know what the word is for that. But I'd slip through very quickly because of the scales.
Liquidodynamic.
Dynamic.
Yeah,
I think that sounds about right. I'll be that. Whatever it is, I'll be that.
There's lots. I mean, it's nice. You've got so much to do, which is lovely. And again,
busy. Very busy.
Yeah, really busy.
Digging,
That's good.
swimming, taking photos. That'll do.
It's brilliant.
That's enough.
It's lovely. It's nice. It's nice. I think, especially at the moment, we just discussed how little there is to do. It's nice to have so much to look forward to. Now, the other thing I've got to ask you a couple of things actually. But the first one is that this is an audio podcast for people's ears and made with sounds rather than sights. And I wondered if you had a favourite noise that you could either make for us or tell us about.
Oh, yes, I do. And I will try to make it. But when I try to make it, I feel like it gets nowhere near how good the actual sound is. So I'll tell you what it is first so that all your listeners can conjure it in their heads, and then I'll do my bad version of it. But my favourite sound is a sucker pad pulling off. Like on a rubber arrow, if you shoot a rubber arrow at a window and it sticks, or an octopus's tentacle is the big thing I'm thinking about with those sucker pads. Or do you remember those bath mats? It's like a rubber bath mat. I don't know if they still exist or whether it's
They
just
do.
that
My
I'm too
daughter
old.
has one. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
It's
my
kids
daughter
that
has
use them,
one,
right? So your listeners will probably know them very well. The rubber bath mats that stick to the bottom, and they have these sucker pads on them, and all these things: octopus tentacles, bath mats, rubber arrows on windows. I would say they make a sort of a kind of like a noise when it comes away.
That was very good.
And it was okay. I really feel like when I hear that sound in nature or in life, I love it so much that I don't feel like anything I do with my mouth will come anywhere close. But it's that sort of, especially actually with the bath mat or the octopus tentacle, because you get lots of them all in one go. You know what I mean? When it pulls away and there's 10 of them all going, and I can't do it fast enough to create the right noise. But that I think is a lovely sound.
Well, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
But also, you do make me wonder. We see there's lots of nature documentaries about octopuses and how clever they are.
Yeah.
And they use their suckers to grab this and grab that. And I sometimes wonder maybe they're just doing it for fun because they love that noise. Cause it's so good.
Yeah. It's honestly, it would be a dream to hug an octopus. I think not necessarily for the feeling. I don't know what it would feel like. I think it might feel a bit squishy and a bit weird. But then when the hug ends and it goes all down these tentacles, I think that would feel so fun. It would be like a unique massage. You wouldn't be able to get a massage anything like it. Hundreds of little tiny pops all over your arms at the same time. I think that would be very
amazing.
relaxing.
And also because they've got so many arms, they can give really good hugs.
Yeah. They'd really wrap around.
Yeah.
I hope that it wouldn't be. They don't sting you or anything, do they? Octopuses? I don't think it would be painful.
I don't think they squirt ink, don't they? At people?
Yeah, but hopefully I would just try and make
things,
friends with it first, so that it knew I didn't mean it any harm, and then hopefully it wouldn't do that.
Well, also, we say that it squirts ink. We think that might be a bad thing. Might just be trying to draw a nice picture for you, or give you a nice, like, sort of face paint or something. It might squirt ink you and come away, and you've got a lovely sort of face paint of Spider-Man or something.
It could be a really thoughtful, creative thing, or the opposite. Maybe it's a horrible sneeze, and it's the same as blowing a whole load of snot over somebody as you hug them, which would be pretty unpleasant, actually.
And it's just written a horrible word across your face or something horrible like that. Well, I mean, it is something for you to try when you're swimming back dressed as your fish alien.
That's
This is,
true.
of course,
Hopefully,
something
I'll bump into one, and then I can try and earn its trust, give it a big hug, and then finally hear what it's like to have that popping sound all at once. It's my dream.
So much to look forward to. I'm quite jealous.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, I was saying that it might write a horrible word on your face simply because the next question I've got to ask you is that,
Yes.
this is a family-friendly podcast. It is suitable for people of
course.
all possible ages that you can ever imagine, from sort of wah to, all of
Yeah.
those ages. And I just wondered, well, I want to make sure, actually, that if there are any rude words that you won't be saying to make sure this is going to be family-friendly.
Okay, I will not be using the word slap as a swear word. I think it's very tempting sometimes. We can get carried away. It's very easy to dismiss something and say, "Oh, that's a load of old slap," or "You're talking absolute slap." But I won't be doing that. I won't be saying that
Thank
because
goodness.
I think it's quite an unpleasant way to describe something. So
It's
I won't be
slap
going.
is. I'm very glad you won't be saying slap. It's just the way it sounds.
Yeah, it's
makes
very
you go,
harsh.
"Oh, yeah,
It sounds quite painful.
yeah, pile of slap." That's horrible, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. A big
Thank you for
load
not
of
doing that.
steaming slap. We just don't want to go into that. It's a bit,
No,
a bit
please no
horrible.
slapping on this podcast. That would be awful. And can I also ask, for the sake of you're in a pit, I don't know how stable it is. Maybe don't slap anything as well, just in case.
Yeah. No, I'll be careful about that. I'll be going nowhere near the word. To be honest, I won't be saying it. I won't be doing the action. I just think the further we get away from that word, the better. So there'll be nothing to do with it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for not saying slap. I won't say
No, you're
slap
welcome.
either.
You're
There will
welcome.
be
Great,
no
thanks.
one will
Yeah.
say slap.
The
from
slap
now on.
will be minimised completely on this podcast. I don't want anybody else saying it either. I don't want anyone learning what a good swear word it is. So it's a secret. It's our secret, and
Good.
it won't get out.
Thank you, Joz. I really appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. You're welcome.
Right, well, look, here's the big important question. The reason I've got you on the show, and you specifically, because I thought you would be particularly good at this. I've chosen this for you. I thought,
wow.
what question would Joz be good at? And it's this one. And this has been sent in by Ruby Molly, who is aged 11. And I mean, this is an amazing question. I have
It's
to
an
say, Ruby
incredible
Molly,
question.
I'd like to think that she thinks about this an awful lot, and she may well have an answer herself, but she's asked us to provide one too, or more specifically, she asked you. So, Joz, the question is, and I hope you're ready for this.
Yeah.
If letters were either even or odd, which letters would be even, and which letters would be odd?
It's such a good question. It's an incredible question. And what I really like about this question, Ruby Molly, if you're listening, is when I read it, I felt like I had asked this question before to myself, but I don't think I have. It feels like a question that everyone has thought of. It feels like an obvious question, but I don't think I ever have sat down and worked it out. So I feel like it's one of the great universal questions that hasn't been asked yet. So I want to say well done for such an amazing question. I really love putting things in categories, making lists, and then working out what category everything sits in. So I feel like this is quite an exciting question. And I think, so I've been thinking a lot about it, and I think it's not as simple as just saying even, odd, even, odd, even, odd through the alphabet. So A is even, B is odd, C is even, D is odd, that kind of thing. I know that's how it works in numbers, but I think letters are a bit different. I think it's got to come down to, I think it's a bit about how weird the letter is. If it's a normal letter, then I think it's even. So, A, E, N, I think would be even.
L,
so these
L
sort of
is quite
everyday
normal, isn't
letters
it?
that we
Like-
use all the time, I think are definitely even. But I think if it's a Q or a Z or a K, they're definitely even. And I guess now I'm thinking a bit about Scrabble, because those are the words with big scores in Scrabble, because they're the weirder letters. But I also think sometimes it's not just about whether it's a weird, unusual letter. Sometimes it's just, you just feel whether it's even or odd. Because I think H is even. Even though
H is even.
H has a higher score in Scrabble because it's a less used letter. but I think it just feels like a solid, nice, easy letter, and I think that should make it even.
Well, also, I think if you look at an H, it's even, isn't it? Because it's sort of like line,
Yes.
line across, and then other line, and that's totally even, and it's totally the same
Yeah,
on both
'cause
sides.
it
and
divides
you turn it
down the
upside
middle.
down, it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of things. I think it's partly about whether it's a usual letter that we use all the time or a weird letter that we only use every now and again, like Z. And I think sometimes it's about how it looks, whether you can divide it down the middle. And sometimes it's just about a gut feeling. Like sometimes I think you just know whether a letter is odd or even.
Now, Joz, how would you feel? How would you feel if I went through the alphabet and you shouted odd or even?
I'd be really happy to do that. I think that's the only way to
it's
to
the
answer
only
this
way to do
question
it, isn't
properly.
it? Yeah.
Is to be thorough from beginning to end and do all 26. Are there 26?
Okay.
I think there are.
There are 26, unless again, I mean, you're talking about looking underneath things. I don't know if there are secret ones
Who
underneath
knows?
letters.
Yeah, who knows what's beneath the alphabet?
I don't know in alien alphabets or other, in fact, just other alphabets. We'll go for straight up the English alphabet. I don't want to go for sort of Greek. We're not going to go for alphas, omegas, betas, or
the Russian alphabet. That's a whole nother thing.
It's Arabic alphabet. There's so many other letters, and I feel let's stick to the
start with the English
alphabet. Apologies to
really
listeners who are hoping we're going to go for Martian ones, but we're going to stick with the English ones. So from the top. I mean, you've already given this one away. I don't want to ruin this. You've already said this one, but let's say A.
Even.
Okay, that makes sense. And also it makes sense, doesn't it? Because, big A's, like capital A's, again, same when you look at them, they're even. But little A's are like, what's that at the end?
Yeah, with a little kind of, there's a quirkiness to A, but I think it's so reliable, it's so simple, we all love an A, it's got to be even.
That's fair. Okay, what about B?
Odd.
Whoa!
I think it's odd. I know I said they wouldn't alternate, but I think the first two do. I think the first two are even odd. Because I think B... It doesn't look the same. It's straight on one side and then bumpy on the other side, and it's a bit of a weird letter. It's not in all the words. It's not in the word the, or the word and, or the word pot. So already that's three words that don't have the letter B in them. True. So it's a bit of a weird letter. So
also sometimes people write a big B so that the loop at the top is smaller than the loop at the bottom, and that's like a sort of really funny bum, which is quite odd.
Yeah. So I think it's got to be an odd one.
That's great. Okay. C.
Odd. I think it's odd.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess again, it's not the same both sides because it's open at one side and then a big curve on the other side. And again, I can think of lots of words that don't have it in, like flower, friend,
pie,
book, pie. Garden. None of these words have a C in, so I think it's.
It's also the way that C is quite sneaky. In that sometimes it's "sir" and sometimes it's "cur," and it's like, what are you doing? You're so unpredictable.
And as well, not even getting into "ch" and all those other things we can do with it. So I think it's odd.
Okay, that's good. D.
Even. I think
I'd agree. I agree with that. Yeah, even though like a little D is like a stick with a little bum on it, it's still. Yeah. I think pretty solid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's in and, it's in body, it's in desk. Yeah, so lots of everyday words have a D in it. I think we use it all the time.
Dry, dodecahedron, all this sort of classics. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So
okay, E.
Even. E stands for even. It's a vowel. Yeah. It's in basically every word. I bet if you were to think of a word now, it will have an E in it. It's in all the words. Do
you know what? I'm finding it impossible to think of a word without E in it.
Hen. He.
Yeah.
I just thought of the word window, and that doesn't have an E in it. But other than window, it's in more or less every word.
Well, you say that, but like a W is a bit like a pointy E.
Yes, it's on its side. So
yeah.
It's more or less in every word, so E has to be even.
That's very fair. Okay, next one then is, which again is very like an E, but like someone's like cut a bit off it, F.
I think F is odd, because somebody's cut a bit off the E, and I think that's an odd thing to do.
Yeah, that's right.
I also think I think there aren't many words with an F in them that don't start with F. I can think of lots that start with F, like firefly. Oh no, that's got an F in the middle, but only because the word fly has an F at the beginning.
Yeah. Same with like fluff. Fluff's got F's at the end, but it's got an F at the beginning as well.
Yeah, you'll never have a word with an F in the middle, which I think is odd, and that makes it an odd letter. Yeah.
There's also, I would say that like if you put lots of F's together and you go, that's quite an odd noise.
Yeah. It sounds like someone's ripped some paper out of a book.
Yeah. That's really
so. That's got to be an odd one.
This is so fascinating already.
I know. You can really,
like you say, I can't believe I hadn't thought about this before.
Yeah, it feels obvious. It feels like we should have done this when we were in reception class. You know, at the same time we learn about even and odd numbers, you really ought to do the same thing for the alphabet, but it's never really been done.
Absolutely. Right. Well, let's definitely. I mean, I feel like we've gone so far already.
Yeah, we've got to.
We might speed it up, but let's go.
Yeah,
G.
let's just odd.
Yeah, that's. I'm totally with you. H, you've already said that was even, wasn't it?
Definitely even.
Yeah. What about I?
I's got to be even because again, it's a vowel and it's just a line. You know, there's
well,
nothing
it is when it's a big I, but a
line.
little I is like line.
It's got a little dot and
it's
a little tail sometimes. But I think it's got to be even. It's we use it so much. Also,
okay, but I'm going to stick up for I a little bit. It might be even, but I feel like on weekends maybe it's a bit odd. Like it feels like it's like one of those people who wears a suit but they've got funny socks or they've got a silly tie.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing it is, I think.
Yeah. So and then it's I've got to remember the alphabet. J, of course, right?
J must be odd, surely.
It must be because it's I, but crazy I. Like whoa, even out there I.
And a lot of the words that start with J are crazy words. Jester, jolly, jelly. Yeah. They're all silly. Yeah. They're all silly words. So I think if there's a letter that immediately makes everything silly, that's got to be an odd letter.
Yes. Okay, totally with you on that. What about K?
I think K is odd as well because it's got that line and then those two other lines sticking out at crazy angles. It looks mad, okay?
Yeah, it looks like it's doing like a brilliant dance move or like a super kick or something, doesn't it? Which is obviously spelled with K. So obviously,
So
and has a K and a C in it, so it's like super odd. Yeah. Okay. L.
Even.
Yeah, it has to be,
boring
doesn't
actually.
It?
Boring letter.
Really
Very
boring.
little to say about an L. It's just it looks a bit like an I when it's lowercase, so it's kind of just copying I.
Yeah, it's really not.
And then when it's uppercase, I guess it's got that nice sort of corner shape. It looks like a corner, and that makes it a bit more interesting. But it's basically a very boring letter.
But corners are quite boring.
Yeah, corners
because,
yeah.
You know, they're not as fun as like a wibble or a circle.
Yeah, or a splat.
When it comes to shapes.
Yeah, it really shows how much I'm reaching when the most interesting thing I can say about an L is that it looks like a corner. So even, just an everyday even letter.
I haven't disagreed with you on any of these yet. I think you're absolutely right. M.
I think M is even. Because of what you were saying about splitting it down the middle. An M, you can split right down the middle, and it just turns into two hills. Or if it's a capital M, two mountains, points.
Yes. And again, different to B, if you were to turn it upside down, it looks like a bum that's an equal, like a bum on both sides.
Yes.
It's not it's sort of quite boring.
Yeah, it's equal on both sides. So I think a nice, simple, even letter, that one.
That's fair. What about N?
I think N might be even.
Yeah, because it's like half a bum.
Yeah. Well, or maybe it's odd because you can't split it in half.
Well, you could, but then it might be an L, which we've already pointed out is quite boring.
Yeah, and that makes.
Or would it
even.
be a J? Yeah.
N is the hardest one so far, I think. I don't have a clear idea of whether it's.
What about if I said some N words? What do you think would be like nuts?
Nuts is quite a fun. I would say nuts is an odd word.
What about ninny?
Ninny is a pretty odd word. Maybe N is odd.
Nincompoop.
Nincompoop is a very odd word. Yeah. I think N is odd. I think it makes odd things happen.
Okay, fine. Yeah. That's okay. So we've got M N O.
O has got to be even. It's another vowel. It's another one you can split right down the middle.
Well, okay, all right. Well, no, you're right in terms of how it looks, but what about ooh? That's quite odd.
That is quite odd. It's definitely the oddest vowel, I think. O. because of its shape. It's a bit of a weird shape. Well, no, it's such a normal shape, a circle, that it's a bit suspicious. It's a bit like Joe Biden seeming so normal, or Prince Charles.
Yes.
It's so ordinary, just a little O shape, that you think, there's something going on here.
But also, you colour it in the middle, and suddenly it's a little hole in a wall. Or
That's
a little
true.
tunnel.
I forgot about colouring it in. That's one of the most fun things to do with it. Maybe it's odd. Maybe it's the only odd vowel.
And you can draw a face in it. Like, there's so much that you can do with an O that's quite... Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to disagree with you there, Joz, but I just felt like...
I think you might be right. I think I'll accept that change. I think it's odd.
Thanks.
O is odd. Oh, and it stands for odd. And we said E was even because it stands for even. So it makes sense that O should be odd.
That's very fair. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, P.
Odd. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have words with a P in and you don't even know it's there. Like psychology or philosophy.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
You'll have words with a P and it sounds like an F or an S. And you go, where's the P? And then somebody writes it down and you go, oh, there is a P. But I couldn't hear it.
We had the similar thing with K earlier, and K was odd. So therefore, by I think sort of association,
I think it has to be odd.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, you've already said this one earlier. So Q, that's odd.
Q's got to be odd. It's the maddest letter ever
it's so
invented.
Mad.
It's completely bonkers.
It can't go anywhere without a U by it, because the U's like, Q is so like just off the wall. I've got to hang out with it.
It has to have a companion.
Keep it under wraps. Yeah.
Yeah, Q is just insane. Also, we don't even need it. You could, for QU, we only ever have QU, and it makes the same sound as KW. It's Qu. And you could easily get Qu by using KW. So Q is a whole extra letter we have that we don't even need. We've already got letters for it.
Yeah, Q is so
and
rogue.
It doesn't save. It doesn't save any space because you already have to have the U there.
That's true.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I've got so much respect for Q from this conversation.
Yeah, I
really
feel
like
I like it. I'm a big fan of it because it does its own thing. It invents its own rules. It doesn't care at all. I love Q. If you think about it's definitely odd.
Quails, which begin with a Q, quails are completely, but they just run around.
Yeah,
like they have no idea what's going on. It's like if they could speak, I always assume quails would just be going just endlessly, because they just run around like they've got no concept of they wake up in the morning and go I'm just going to run around. Yeah.
Same thing with the Queen. I think the Queen does the same thing when she wakes. She wakes up in the morning and goes, I've got so much to do, and she manages to keep it together. When you see her, she's pretty. But I reckon underneath, she must be feeling completely crazy all the time.
I think as soon as those Christmas messages end, as soon as the Christmas ends, she just goes, and just runs around.
Runs round and round the palace.
Yeah.
So it's an odd one. It's definitely odd.
That's fair. Okay, I almost can guess what this is. R.
I think it's even, isn't it?
It's got to be even, isn't it? It's everywhere.
Simple.
Isn't it?
It's simple. Simple letter.
Yeah. Okay, what about S?
I think that's even as well, because that's in everything. Although, actually, S is the only letter which you can just add to everything. With any word,
and then there's more of it.
Pop an S on the end, and then there's more of it. And then that is a bit odd, actually.
Yeah, and quite exhausting as well, because you think you've got one thing, then you add an S, and it's like, I've got...
Yeah, and now there's loads.
I've got an apple. No, you've got apples.
No, I've got apples.
Oh, no, I can't. Yeah. I'm not hungry enough for apples. I just want an apple.
Yeah, maybe that is odd. Maybe that's odd behaviour. So S is odd.
Well, especially say because you got fish, but fish is one fish or many fish, but then you add an S and it's like
fish.
Well, you have to add an E as well, but fishes or fish, and then that's odd.
Yeah,
because I don't know how many fish that is. That's just a weird
you're right.
amount. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, so it's not even very specific. It just tells you there's loads. So I think that's odd.
Yeah, fair. Okay, good. T.
Even. Because again, it's in a lot of stuff. We use it all the time, and if you split it down the middle, it looks the same both sides.
It's two corners, isn't it? So
it's two corners pushed together. Yeah, it's an upside down double L, and we said L was even, so T's got to be even.
And I would wager, I don't want to jump ahead here, but wager that we've already spoken that this one controls a Q. I'd say U has got to be even, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Because the Q needs a nice, solid, even number to balance its craziness. So the U has to be a nice, reliable, sensible, even number, I think.
Yeah. What about V?
I think V might be odd. Just because I can't think of many V words. It's a bit like F, where the only V words I can think of start with a V, like vampire or volcano.
Yes.
And both of those are odd things, vampires and volcanoes.
That's very true, isn't it?
I think V might be a portal into a slightly strange, crazy world. I can't think of many ordinary words that start with V.
No, I always think it looks a bit like an angry you. Like
Yes.
if you got really angry and really tense and really wound up, and it's like, I'm a V.
Eyebrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might be odd.
That's it. And it also looks like if you were lazy about drawing birds in the distance when they're flying. It looks a bit
maybe
like a V,
you just do it. Yeah, can't be bothered to do the beak or the feet or the feathers. I'll just do a V and nobody will notice. And I think that's that one.
Okay, so it's a V W, which we mentioned before.
I think W is the last even letter.
Right.
Because I think it's another one, you can split it down the middle and it looks the same. It's the opposite of an M, basically.
But it's quite versatile, isn't it? Because it is. I agree with you, and I think it's even. But like wibble and wobble,
they are funny
silly words.
Yeah. So maybe it's the most fun even letter.
That's quite an accolade.
It's definitely even because it just feels quite kind of reliable and everyday. But as you say, you can do some quite fun things with it. So maybe it's a bit like I, when we said I was even, but it actually has a bit of a jauntiness to it. A W is a similar thing. It's an even letter, but it's a bit wacky. Wacky. That starts with W.
Yes, of course, wacky. Yes, and wonky and weird. Yeah. So it's
So I think
definitely
it's an honorary even number.
It tries really hard.
Yeah, with a strong hint of oddness.
That's fair. I like that.
And I think
kudos to W for it as well. Like that's
yeah.
And
I think XYZ completely odd.
Yeah, completely odd. And I should say for US listeners, XYZ, which is even more odd because it's Z at least kind of goes.
Agree on
I finish, but
called.
Z is really
Z
exciting.
Goes on forever. Yeah. X is crazy. We don't know what to do with that.
No, but X is weird. X is the same either side. Like if you turn an X upside down, it looks the same. If you put it
that's
upside
true.
down,
It's very very symmetrical, but
it's also
it's too mad to be an even. Yeah, and only one word starts with it. That's pretty strange. It's xylophone, and that's it. That's pretty unusual.
Because there is. I was going to say, what about X-ray? But X-ray, you have to do X little hyphen
dash,
another word. It's like we can't. Yeah, you can't. You can't just do X-ray as one word. Like it has to have a little break because you can't handle the X. You have to go X, ray. Like
ray.
yeah.
And other than that, it's just at the end of stuff like fox and box. So it can't really. We can't really decide what to do with an X. It's a bit of a rogue one.
Why is? I mean, it's an eternal question, isn't it? That's odd.
Also, why is a funny one? Because you can use it as a vowel, even though it's not one. You can have words like sky and fly, which don't have vowels in, but the Y is sort of turns into a vowel, and I've always found that very odd. I've never really understood that, to be honest.
That is odd.
Because you're supposed to have a vowel in every single word. You've got to have one, but Y can turn into one, and that just seems mad.
That is bizarre, to me. Isn't it? And I also think like yaks begin with a Y. Yaks
they're
are
pretty
really weird. They're so weird. They're just sort of big, but they're like big and hairy, and you don't quite know how much
cows?
of them is there.
I don't really. Is it just a type of cow, or is it more like a bear? I don't really know, or a kind of an enormous ape creature. We don't really know.
It's very odd. Or like a rug with a face. Is also possible.
They're very strange.
Really good point. Right, and then of course, as we sort of mentioned, Z or Z.
Yep. Just a bit weird. Just a bit of a weird word.
Yeah, again, like an angry S. An angry S the wrong way round. It's like a...
Yeah, and it's another one that doesn't really crop up all that often. Zero, fuzz, but you're not putting it in with your ands and your thes.
No. Well, wow. I mean, and
there we go.
That's all of them. Yeah, I think we've covered that.
And it was I think we were very thorough, maybe too thorough. But I think actually it's such a fascinating question that you really need to go quite in depth to make sense of it. So I hope, Ruby Molly, that Well, I hope you agree. She might be listening and going, I didn't agree with any of those. But I hope that we've done a good enough job of justifying why we think.
I hope so too. And I should say, Ruby Molly, if you do disagree, let us know. Write in, let us know. If any of the listeners disagree, give us your reasons. And Joz, I feel like that we've covered quite a lot, but just I suppose one very last quick question.
Oh yeah.
Because we all accept which letters are odd and which are even by the fact that they're the next one along. I just wonder if there are any numbers that you feel have been incorrectly categorised. Are there any numbers that are even but you think should be odd or should be odd but are what I think
tell
that's
you
the
what's
same thing
just
twice
popped
there,
into my head is 74. 74 popped into my head, and I think that's more odd than we give it credit for.
Yes.
And I don't know why. I really don't know why. I think it's because
good,
sevens. I think 7 is an odd number. So I guess it seems strange to me that something that starts with a 7 could end up being even just because it ends in an even number. So maybe we could say the same about 76 and 72 and 78.
That's very true.
Maybe all of those should be odd because they start with a 7, and 7 is a very odd number.
Well, I once heard, and I've got to give full credit because it was an interview with Michael Palin. And if listeners don't know Michael Palin, he was he's a very funny man and a sort of writer, and he does many things. Anyway, look him up. But he once said on a radio interview, "What's your favourite number?" And he said that it was 56. And when they said, "Why is it 56?" he said, "Because if you change the beginnings of letters to the word N, then 55 becomes nifty knive, which is very funny, but 56 becomes nifty nicks." Which is hilarious.
Pretty good. Yeah. Sounds a bit like Stevie Nicks, who is also very good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or there's a baseball team called the Knicks. There's a lot going on. Yeah, but again, 56 is even, but it sounds quite odd when you say
it should be odd. Yeah, so 74 and 56 we could probably swap and accept that they are actually the opposite of what we think they are. But all the others I think are pretty fair.
Yes. Well, I was going to say maybe on a future date, Joz, you'll come with this and we'll go through every single number.
We'll go through all the numbers.
We'll categorise them correctly just in case.
Work out which ones should have been changed.
It'll be a special several billion hour episode.
That sounds quite fun. I look forward to it. I'll put it in my diary.
Yes, for when you finish digging and swimming and
everything else. Yeah, when I'm back home.
Good. Well, thanks, Joz. I really appreciate you having the time to go through what was a very serious, important question.
Yeah, really glad that we managed to get to the bottom of it. I think it's important.
Yes, me too. And have you got an exciting day? Have you got an alien planned for the rest of the day that you're going to try and be? Or
not a specific one, but I think we'll just continue going through certain weird outfits and seeing what we can make out of them. So hopefully we'll come up with something out of that. Maybe I'll try and create this sort of farty gas one that we were talking about. Maybe I'll try and work out what he might look like and then dress up as him.
Good luck creating that. And I'm glad that you said dress up as and that you're not going to try and produce...
no, I'll try not to do the same actions as him because I think that will get a bit boring after a while for the people around me. They'll go, please stop.
Leave the windows open.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you, Joz, and have fun being a farty alien monster.
Will do. Thank you for having me.
Big thanks to Joz for taking time out of dressing as many, many aliens in order to answer Ruby Molly's super important question. And Ruby Molly, I hope you're happy with that answer and that it's in line with all of your thoughts on odd and even letters. Why not write us in and let us know if any of your suggestions would be different and the reasons why. And that's Ruby Molly or any of you listening. If you think different letters should be odd or even, let us know. Also, if you want to write in with questions that need answering, jokes that need telling, big words that need yelling, smells that need smelling. Actually, don't send in smells, especially not stinky hippos. Let's not go through all that again. So if you want to do any of those other things, then ask your parping grumble trunks to help you email us at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. And if they also fancy sending me some cold medicine or tubs to put my homemade slime in, then they can send a donation to ko-fi.com/Comedy Club for Kids or via the Acast supporter button. And of course, you can all come and see us live if we're doing shows near you, starting in a few weeks' time. I promise I won't sneeze in your face, or I'll try not to sneeze in your face. Right, I'm off to eat Skittles and see if I can sneeze rainbow slime. Bye!
You have been listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense. nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense. It's the end.